So I don't mean this as a kind of any kind of insult to the language, but you have to take it from my point of view. I'm going to give the presentation in English. I could give it in French or Italian, but I'm not going to. I'm going to spare you. I'm sitting in the back, jet lagged, so I'm a little bit tired. And all I hear is script error, FileMaker. So that's my world. So I'm sitting through some sessions. I'm kind of following along, and I hope I keep you guys awake. It's the end of the day. Okay, so this session I'm going to kind of go quickly over the new version of Inspector. And the reason I have this window open here is because Inspector is no longer something that I do by myself. It's a collaboration by all these different people. So myself, there's XPath optimizations. Luke, who's my good friend Luke at BEEZWAX. Mark has done a lot of the graphics and UI improvements. We have John, who does some logo stuff. JavaScript from Mike Bostic. Who knows about D3? D3. It's my favorite tool. You have to go check out D3. It's all JavaScript-driven data visualizations. Started off as a project at Stanford. And then Steve has been helping out, and this goes back a long time. The last person on the list, XPath Mentorship, Ken Holman. Because I parse the DDR, it's all in XML. So when I lived in Arizona, I go to the library and get a book on XPath. I go home, I read it. In the back of the book, there's this person's name with his email address. Type an email address, type an email message to Ken. 2 hours later, I get a reply from this author of this book. And we have had a kind of a friendship going for many, many years now. And he used to sit on the standards body of XML. I took a class with him in in California once with him, and right over my head. So anyway, this version has been rebuilt from the ground up. One of my favorite things about this version is this quote over here. Not the quote, but the reason why we did it. So some see things the way they are and ask why. Others see things that could be and ask why not. So we said, why not process your DDR on the server? Amazing, once you get started using this, you'll really love it. So one of the main features of this new version is we got the ability to process the DDR on the server. So what that does, I'll just get started with that right now, and then we'll get going here. So this is the new version. Over here is where you create a solution. I'll call this starter file. You can create a private solution, so only you who log in sees those analyses. So this is hosted in Oakland, California. I'll save it, and I'll go ahead and import a DDR. So I'll go and import that DDR. And once the file is uploaded to the server, it's doing that right now. So it's going to upload the file. It's done. Basically, it's taking over processing on the server in Oakland. You get a little window here, a little circle thing over here. And I could go look at something else. I could go work somewhere else. I could upload another DDR, another DDR, and those will get processed on the server. Depending on how fast your server is, it will take, faster or slower. And when it's done processing, this goes away. So you know that it's done. So that's just a kind of an introduction to one of the main new features of this version, the fact that you can process the solution on the server. And it was a lot of work, to get to that point. A lot of work from Michael, who's a plugin developer, and myself, and other people. So it's done, but I'm not going to spend time in this version because it's hosted all the way in California. So I'd rather have a really quick demo for you to show you. So, all right. Let's see. So how many of you know that you need FileMaker Pro Advanced to generate the DDR? Okay, everybody knows that. I don't have to go into that, right? Everybody knows that you generate the DDR from the FileMaker Advanced, and it's XML, right? Is that good? Is that new to anybody? No? Okay. All right. So let's go over some slides really quick because there's some things I wanted to show you. So my name is Vincenzo Menanno. I'm from Oakland, California. I'm the Director of FileMaker Development at BEEZWAX. These are my two kids, Fiorella and Luciano. Things that I like sharp knives. I like parking backwards. And I'll tell you why that's important to think of when you think in the context of a solution like this. And I like measuring things. I wish James were here because I keep sending him emails saying we need profiling in the solution. So I have, on the FileMaker ideas, the community, I have a whole bunch, if you look at the top voted ideas, it's too bad that the top voted ideas, field labels. Anyway, I posted that when the suggestions came out. There's one in there about profiling, so vote those ideas up. Parking backwards, what that means is, to me, it's like being ready. So I park my car backwards means that I'm ready to go. The same thing as when you need to take a decision on something. When you have a tool like this and you have a lot of fields and tables, and you need to make a decision. Can I delete this field? Where is it referenced? You can reference a tool like this. It tells you instantly where things are. So that's why I like to refer to it as parking backwards. So one of the main goals of this release were we wanted to make it really useful for developers. So we really stepped back. We really looked at what key features can we make improvements in to make it really, really useful to you guys. So the other main focus of this version is collaboration. I know more and more because I lead a team or direct a team. The engineers at our office, a lot of them are a lot smarter than me. So the things that we do, we want to collaborate on because there's different skill sets that are now involved to bring solutions, to your clients. JavaScript skills, Unix skills to set up a server, all kinds of skills that maybe one person is very rare that one person has all those skills. So a lot of the times when we work on solutions, we work collaboratively on a solution. So we wanted to reflect that in this tool. So collaborative kinds of things that, for example, the one you just saw is how to run the DDR on server so it doesn't tie up your machine and then other people can get access to it and see what's there and fix things. Performance is always, an important thing. And in this version, the fact that it runs on server, you saw a few seconds, uploaded the DDR, is very addictive. At the office, just before I go home, I'll throw 1, 2, 3 DDRs on the server, close my laptop, go home, and I come in the next morning and it's all analyzed. There's a lot. I don't have enough time in this presentation to show you the breadth and depth of all the stuff that Inspector has. There's a lot of stuff there. We could go on for over an hour just to cover all the different areas. So in usefulness, the most requested thing that people ask all the time is where is this field referenced? Where is this script referenced? Where is this layout referenced, etc. So references is probably the most requested item, along with dependencies. But dependencies are not as important. So if something depends on something else, it's not as important as if I have a field and it's referenced by some other thing. Because if I delete that field, I break the things that reference it. So references are the most important thing, and we do, I would say, probably a really great job at reporting those. The other thing in the past that we used to do is we report problems. And we got a lot better at that, and you'll see that on this version, we now can say, yes, I want you to check for problems, and I want to include dormant problems, which is much, like a lot of times people would email me, tell me, why do I have 1,000 problems in my system? Well, that's because, I'll look at all the problems, and a lot of the problems were things like I have a field with a value list, and the value list has been deleted, but the field is now showing an edit box. So the thing that happened was the person put the field on there, chose a value list, and then decided later to, maybe I don't need that value list. I change it to an edit box, and then option copied that field over and over and over, and then later decided to delete the value list. FileMaker in some places caches some information. So if you change your mind and you say, oh, I want that value list again, it's there. But the problem is once you assign a value list to a field, it's glued on. You can't take it off anymore. So the option copying that field is a bad idea, because now you've option copied that problem all over the place. So Inspector, if you uncheck the boxes say, don't check for dormant problems, then it won't warn you on those problems that are dormant and useless, basically. So you don't have to worry about that. So another big improvement we made is when you do comparisons in the past, you have a large system that has hundreds of thousands of elements, 50,000 layout objects or whatever. We used to look at every single object and see, like, how is this changed from this version to that version? So now what we do is we roll everything up into higher level MD5 hashes. So now what we do is we look at an analysis and a prior analysis, and we can instantly say, hey, they're the same. Or we can look at it and say, hey, there's some changes over here. You got to look over there. And then, so the fact that you don't have to wait to see what's changed is a big improvement. So really, really huge improvement from the prior version. I ran one analysis on a large system. It ran overnight. It couldn't finish in the prior version. In this system, like a few seconds, it could tell you right away, okay, this changed. So very, very useful. Details. There's a lot of details. I can't go into all the little details of added information that we get in addition to what the DDR gives you. So, I'll cover some of them, but I can't have time for everything. Navigation is great. It's a very simple navigation. You can go into find mode just like you do in FileMaker and go find a field or a script or something. I'll show you in some cases you might not want to do that because we already cross-reference the information in different ways for you. So you don't have to do those searches. Okay, so collaboration, it's hosted. You can, take the file, put it up on FileMaker server, just have to turn on, allow the installation of plugins, and allow the installation of, runtime extensions. You have to register that runtime extension. But then you just host the file, and then it's on your network, and you can open it and share it. We added notes. So let's say I have a system, and I have a field on a layout, and I want to let my team know, don't delete this field, or I've added this field for this purpose, whatever. If you bring another analysis in, that note persists from analysis to analysis. So everybody can see that note. You can add other notes. So that's kind of a nice way to collaborate. And you can create accounts for people on your team. So you can create multiple accounts. People can get in there and share stuff. Again, we talked about server performance. What we coined is everybody knows PSOS. We call it PDOS, process DDR on server. So that's a new term. Processing, post-processing, there's a kind of a different areas that it does work in, and I'll cover that in some of the other slides. There's a lot of details. I'm just kind of gloss over these because there's just too much stuff to go over, but I'll actually show you some demos, which is probably better. Just to give you an example, FileMaker Inspector 5 had cross-referenced about 30 different things. Like to give you an example, like layout destinations, the different types of layout destinations that you can have. Go to layout by calculation, go to layout by calculation by name, go to layout by calculation by number, go to original layout, go to a selected layout, those kinds of things. So we reference those and we can show you how many times those are referenced. That's one example. There's 115 of those different kind of gathering of information and presenting it to you, so you don't have to go searching for it. Okay, so okay, performance improvements. Let's just kind of do a quick history of where things came from, version 3 to version 6. It's fully threaded since version 5, so it's 64-bit. Fully threaded. I like to tell people you get your CPU's money's worth, because when this runs, it really pounds your machine. So when we do it on server, we're very careful because we don't want to, because they can all be submitted at the same time, we have a blocking feature that lets only one get processed at a time. Once it's processed, then the other one can get processed. Otherwise, it will drag your server trash your server totally. So the one area of major improvement that we've made over time in the releases, so if we look at the dependency table, so the dependency table at one point when we first started had 135 fields and 58 indexes. And as you can see that we dropped the number of fields and the number of indexes, and what you'll see later is by doing that, we end up doing this because we get more performance, because 80% of the imports are into the dependency table, because let's say I have a field that is referenced by a script in a script step that goes as a record in the dependency table. So 80% of the activity goes on in a dependency table. Anything that we can do to make the dependency table faster at importing data, it's a direct win in performance. The same goes for calculations, except we had a little hiccup in version 5. We tried to do that kind of diminishing return on like number of fields and number of indexes. And so the result is this. So basically, it's an interesting chart here because we're not looking at fields, we're looking at XSL files. So in the first version, we only parsed 144 XSL files. So for every XML file that you provide us. So we're now at 443 XSL files. We're importing 1,732 records per second. But what you're looking at is we actually do much more and we're still faster. So things are getting better and better. And I had to tell my team in Oakland that when I was in Germany, we come to visit some family there. There's a great field, and I love to go walking and get ideas. I was thinking, oh, we can make this even better, but I have to release this version. So anyway, more stuff coming. Okay, let's take a quick demo. We'll come back to that. All right. So you saw how to basically you can create a solution over here, so you can track multiple solutions. We have a private flag. This is where I was saying that you can generate the MD5 hash data if you need to compare stuff. If you don't generate it, then you can't compare it with that version because that MD5 hash has not been generated. You can check for problems and include Dorban problems. If your solution is in a good state and you don't need to do that, it can save you some time in processing. So let's take a look at, let's look over here. So this is a huge system here. Where is it? Master tool. This has got, so another area of focus is what we've done is we've categorized them in 3 different columns. So active means it's referenced. There's another column in the middle, unreferenced. And then there's all. So for example, I have fields in this system. I have 6,006 fields in all. And there's 1,170 fields that are not referenced, potentially unreferenced. Now, again, you could do things like set field by name, those kinds of things, but that's cross-referenced in here. So you could look it up and say, hey, am I using that kind of function? Am I using execute SQL? How confident am I that I can delete these fields? You have to understand the solution that you're working with. So you kind of have to take this at a certain value, and you also have to understand what you're working with. Okay, so some major areas here. The navigation is pretty simple. I can go, let's say, to base tables. I'll click on these 135 base tables. See, there's a B table here. So what I was telling you about a note, here's a note. I can type a note here, put in a note, and then the note shows up here. Now, the icon is visible if you click on it. So that's another subtle thing that we do. Like, we only show the icons for the data on the row that's selected. So you don't have a lot of visual noise throughout your application, which is nice. It's kind of inspiration from some of the stuff I've seen on the web. If it does have a note, it'll stay persistent. So let's take a look at these fields in here. I can just click on the number of fields. I'm looking at the fields. The navigation is up here. I can go back to where I was. So here I was here. I can go back into where I was looking at this field. So for example, let's say this field here. So the way it's broken out in Inspector, there's like a triangle. The main focus is at the top. What am I looking at? I'm looking at fields. I'm looking at this database, this base table, this field. And what's the most important question you want to know? Is if it's referenced. So those are that's the kind of things that we focus our attention on to bring the most attention to bring that forward. In a prior version, we had a popover here. So you can click on that, you get a popover. But what we do now is we get, oops, did I do that wrong? Here, this one. So you get a tearaway window. This tearaway window lets me navigate to all the places where that field is referenced. Again, we did throughout this solution, we made an effort to point out that something is dormant or something is active. So this field is referenced in this script here. Okay, it's referenced in this script here at step 77, and it's dormant. So you can see the little coffee cup, the old days of FileMaker Server. If I click there, I could go see that, yes, indeed, that's the field, and you can see here that it is disabled. So you can use that window to navigate into any area, and like many of these areas, like I can go to scripts. Here's scripts, and here's some script. Here's a script over here, this one here. You definitely don't want to delete this script. It's got 292 references. Okay, I can click on that script, and I can see all the places where that script is referenced. Or I can go to look at this one here. This one has 25 references, and some of them are dormant as well here. So let's see here. Yes, I wanted to cover something that James said about WebDirect. So for layouts, okay. By the way, this navigation bar here is the same as navigating from here. I could, go to fields or something. But once I'm in, well, let's go back to layouts here. Whoops. So layouts. So here's all my layouts, right? So I can navigate here, and some of these, the toolbar at the top is actually much more detailed. So if I want to look at calculations, every single possible area that they're calculations, so I can filter in on specific calculations. I can do a search in any calculation across the entire solution. But let's look at layouts, because layouts has got some new nice features in it. Because there's so much information to present, if we weren't to do this new thing that we did here, which you can go to different areas. I'm going to go to styles. Okay. What would happen is you just end up scrolling this way, because there's just too much information to present on one screen. So we carve it up and separate the data. So what styles is, this area here focuses on all the different levels of styling. So for example, you can have a style defined and it's saved in the theme. The next level, so that's the, you can have a style that's the default style for that theme. That's this column here, default percent. And I'll get to the numbers in just a second. The next thing is I can have a style that I created and I saved into the theme. That would be this column here. Another level above that is I have a style, I've saved it, but I haven't saved it into the theme yet. So it's a layout-based style. Okay, and then the last one is the worst one, which is I'm super lazy, I'm running super fast, I don't have time, I didn't even save the style. I just made my changes and I keep going. And over here, what we'll see is that this solution or this layout has 80% of the objects, 1,052 objects that are using up 251 kilobytes of data. So when you're working on WebDirect, you're trying to optimize something, you could just go here and say, find me, click on this button, it will take you to all the objects and show you where they are, and you can start saving them into a theme. So this is kind of a lot of detail here presented to help you be more effective at making your solutions more optimized. Okay, how are we doing for time? We have 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes? We're good? Okay. So the thing I was telling you about all those areas to cross-reference information, let's just look at one of them. So scripts. These are all my FileMaker script steps. So I could look at a script and say, show me my scripts. And so here's all my scripts. And if I go and I look at some script here, so there's the script, and there's the steps in the script over here. So this one has 25 steps in it. At a glance, I can tell if the script has steps in it that are not server compatible or web compatible or whatever. That's what these things are here. If it's included in the menu, et cetera, et cetera. If it runs full access, you get a little icon buddy over here. So if I drill into the script, I can see this one has some problems in it. Let's go look at that one. So here's the script, and what's nice about the display is that it's also color-coded. So you can see things in different colors, and I can link to these scripts, and I can see my disabled steps, and here's a step down here that's broken, okay? But what's interesting is, here's all my steps. I have 69,716 steps, and then on all the scripts and all these files. I could do a search here, but that would be very inefficient, because now I'm going to index that text field, and that's going to slow down your performance of future imports. But how would I search and say, show me every time I use the pause script step? I want to see if the solution uses it anywhere. Well, there's a couple ways to do that. I can go to scripts and say, show me all the FileMaker steps. And over here, I have pause, resume. Okay, it's in the control category. Tells me what version it was introduced and the coloring if I want to customize it. Over here on the far right is again the references column. So I could see, if I click on here, these are all the places where I reference pause. Okay, so I can go look at it and say, okay, I want to see where, let's say this step is over here, and there it is, pause script indefinitely. So anyway, just to show you that you don't have to actually search the data. Inspector does a lot of cross-referencing of the data. Let's look at some of those other areas I was telling you about, because, again, there's 117 of them. So let's look at what I was saying, layout destinations. So there's two numbers that we show. And the reason we show two numbers, there's 5, and there's 2,428. So what that is there's 5 different kinds of layout destinations, I think, that you can use. If I click it, we'll get the list of them. So here's all 5, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so if I was curious to know where am I using, let's say, by selected layout or by layout name by calculation, I can click here, and here's all the places where I use that. And I could go and see, let's say, this step over here and link back into the solution, and it takes me there, okay? So that's just one. Let me show you one other one, and then we'll move on. So very useful. So there's a whole bunch of things here, but let me show you one that's really a lot of work. This one here is all the different states. So the different states are when there's a true value, a true or false value in the DDR. We have the complete list of all the different states. So for example, I want to look at wait for completion. Wait for completion is available in Perform Script on Server, and I can instantly tell there's this false. So I'm not waiting for completion, or I'm waiting for completion here, and this one is disabled, etc. So there's a complete list of all the different states where that state would apply, the different areas where that state would apply. So it's incredibly detailed and rich, and we could spend a lot of time here looking at every one of these areas, but we don't have time. So comparisons really quickly to go back. So we covered references. We covered problems. By the way, problems, you can see here I have 6,006 fields. If I click on the warning triangle right here, I can go see only the fields that have problems. So we filter in on those problems. If I want to see what the problem is, I can click on the warning triangle, and I get the actual problem here. There's a validation calculation and the and the base table, oh, there's a function missing. So that's a calculation, and the function is missing. The complete list of problems is available from the report right here. Click here, and here's your list of problems. And the cool thing is it's hosted, right? So I'm here. I could click here and say I fixed it. Yay, it's done. So it reduces the count, and your team can work collaboratively at fixing those problems. And then the other thing I want to show real quick, because we're running out of time, is comparisons. So I was mentioning before, I can have a solution and another solution. Select the solution over here right in the middle. I want to compare with the first analysis. And instantly you start seeing these little delta triangles showing up. So the delta triangle tells me that something has changed in one of the scripts. I could click here. Oh, look at that. Okay, something changed here. So what happened was the comment count changed. So I don't know if you can see that, but it's in orange. And I can copy that, right? And I can go to, let's say, text edit, create a new document, paste it, and the deletions and the modifications are showing up in different colors. So you can copy it and paste it or whatever. But and you can also get a report, just like you could for the problems. I view a report here, and you can see here what's added, what additions and modifications and deletions, or I can go by area, and I can see the report like that. In the past, we didn't have layout object keys. Okay, yeah. Okay, yes. I'll wrap up with one visualization, and then we'll take some questions. So let's do one thing here. Don't need that. Oh, here. So I don't know, just I like showing this because it's one of my favorite things. So how many of you have seen this? Do you know what this is? This is the D3 thing I was telling you about. So it's a visualization of all the script interactions in your whole solution. This is a relatively small solution, but it's all SVG, right? So I can zoom in here and I can see bacteria growing on my script if there's bacteria. So all SVG is very sharp. And I can see also when I hover, I can see the directionality of the script. So a script is a circle, and the script will, the darker tip of the line shows me that this script over here references the other script over there. So I can see all the interactions of everything in terms of my scripts. And if I hover over here, this one shows me that there's a problem in that script. So I could click there and go back into the solution and drill in and see what the problem is. I'm working with Ryan, who you heard about in the Ajax web viewer interactive demo. He's one of our lead web developers and FileMaker developers, and we're making this enabled so that when you're looking at it in the browser, it can drill you back into FileMaker. That's one of the things that he's working with me on that. Again, I could spend a lot more time, but I'll take some questions. Yeah, no questions? Yes.
Bit strange question, perhaps, but if you would compare this solution, your solution, with base elements or the Todd Geist solution, what are the differences?
I haven't spent enough time with looking at Todd's. But it's not Todd's solution, by the way. It's the other person who wrote it, and he's promoting it anyway. That solution is it looks at everything. But everything is click and wait because it has to gather the information as you look at it. But once you got it, it's cached, right? It's not hosted, so you don't have the collaborativeness. The UI, I reserve judgment. But anyway, I don't know. I mean, it's great because we all have our different strengths. And some people, I like the way some people put it, we use all of them. So in some situations, they use this tool, they use another tool for other purposes. Base elements, I also don't have a lot of experience, but we're one of the first to do it on the server. I think if you put Nick's solution on server, it will not run. It'll take all night. It won't finish. I'm sure he'll get there at some point, but anyway, and I don't spend a lot of time in those solutions, so I can't say. Any other questions? Last question? No? We have a show special, conference special, FM Summit special. So, just 3 things. What are the main reasons you use a solution like this? To build better solutions, to remove dormant code, and remove problems, and help my kids go to college. Thank you very much. Oh, that's the... So FM Summit, 30% off. If you enter this code, you know, you can get the 30% off. And then send me any questions. I'll be here tomorrow. If you have any questions, come and see me. Thank you very much.